Hi, I'm Chris Parrish with Hale Game Calls. Let's take a moment and talk a little bit about friction calls. Friction call maintenance, friction call care, and a little bit of usage on them. You know, friction calls come in many different shapes and sizes, many different surfaces, glass surfaces, crystal surfaces, slate surfaces. There's ways to take care of them, ways not to take care of them, and also different strikers, whether you have wood or polymer tips, waterproof type strikers, what have you. This happens to be our Scarlet Fever call, and it is a crystal surface. Now, crystal requires you to use either stone or heavy sandpaper on it. And you always want to remember to sand your friction call in one direction. I like to prepare it with a stone and then finish it off with a piece of sandpaper and smooth the lines out a little bit. And if I want to keep that maintained, then all I have to do is keep it smoothed down with a piece of sandpaper at that point. If it ever gets to where it's really bad, I'll actually take an alcohol swab and wipe it off completely, re-stone it and re-sand it. Same with your striker. Wooden striker is going to require a little bit of sanding. Your striker comes with the exact radius it needs to perform properly. So you want to make sure you maintain that exact radius as you're sanding that. So remember that when you sand your striker, it's critical because the surface area dictates how good the call is going to sound. And when you sand it in one direction, you're bringing the striker against the grain, and that's what's creating the sound of the call. Now, on the usage of this, remember, striker doesn't make any sound going backwards. So you always want to bring the striker forward in kind of a circular motion to make the yelp. See, if I bring it backwards, it never makes a sound. And if you bring the striker off the call, what happens is you get kind of a false note there. You still call a turkey in, but it's not the proper note. If we keep it on the call, about a 20-degree angle, we make a circle with it, we have the proper note in the yelp. With a cluck, I just lengthen my hand up a little bit on the striker and give more of the tip out there, which will allow me to pull the striker towards me and pop. Again, I'm stroking it backwards, one motion. That way, it doesn't make a sound going back, and I'm not pulling the striker off the call. I have a consistent sound and consistent note, and I'm doing the same thing over and over. That way I'm making very, very few mistakes. One thing that I like to do is I like to take the call and lay it in the lifeline of my hand, and then roll my hand over to the surface. What this does is give me a proper base, and I can consistently put that striker on that call in the same position time in and time out, even in a hunting condition when maybe I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing, but I'm more focused on actually calling the bird and working the bird, especially in early morning hours when you can't necessarily see what you're doing. But same thing with purr. I lengthen the striker even more, lay that call on my lifeline, and I just drag the striker towards me with light pressure. Add any cluck in there. Friction calls are very easy to use if you use them properly to start with, and hopefully these instructions will help you. Another thing I like to do is I like to keep my friction call in either a carrying case or in these specialized turkey vests now. They have pockets for them that are waterproof. Keep them in there. These calls are slightly expensive. They'll last you a long, long period of time, and they're something that you're going to want to pass down to your kids. And if you got one that sounds really good and calls in turkeys, you definitely don't want it to get away from you. Now, slate surfaces can be slightly different. And the thing about slate is it requires a little bit different method of care. Simply, I do not use sandpaper on it, but I use Scotch-Brite on it, and your slate call comes with a piece of Scotch-Brite. Again, you're only sanding the call in one direction. And many times our calls will come with a waterproof striker. This happens to have a polymer tip on it. These particular strikers do not require sanding. In fact, don't touch them at all. Just let them be. Only take care of your slate surface. Remember that slate will absorb a little moisture even with a waterproof striker. However, it will still create sound. You're using the call in the same way, laying it in my lifeline. Use the striker in the exact same method. Just remember to use Scotch-Brite on it and not sandpaper, because sandpaper will wear your slate down thinner and thinner. It'll change the tone of the call, it'll wear your call out quicker. Of course, you could buy another call, but you have one that sounds really good, you want to take care of it, use the same kind of method that we do on our crystal type call, and keep it in a case. Make sure you keep it in your turkey vest, out of moisture, and take it out every so often throughout the season. Sometimes the little holes in the back that we have sound port holes will collect dirt and stuff like that. Take and keep those clean so that you've got full sound and full usage of it. Keep your striker clean. Again, on a polymer tip type striker, there's no need in sanding it. On our night striker, it's going to almost sand itself. Wood strikers, take care of those and maintain them. Your friction calls will last you a long, long time. You keep them maintained and sounding properly, you'll put more turkeys in the back of the truck.